Welcome to Listen to London. I'm your host, Doug MacAllister. Thanks for joining our conversations from the executive suite right to the street. Stories from groups and individuals who are weaving their thread through the very fabric of our community, right here at 94.9 CHRW. Greetings once again, Listen to London audience. I'm your host, Doug MacAllister. We're at Farmtown Canada today. That's just nestled just a few kilometers south of London. Since 2007, they've provided hope through programs and support to kids and also to families. They have engaged over 10,000 interactions and delivering pathways to memories, hopes, dreams, purpose, passion, and peace. And we're delighted that Tallon-Franklin has taken a huge chunk out of her day to spend some time with us and to inform you, the listening audience, as to what Farmtown Canada is all about, how they started, and where they are today. Welcome, Kelly, to the show.
Thank you so much for hosting me. It's a delight to have you here on the farm today.
Well, it's great being on the farm. I'm a Farmtown kid, and I enjoy being back out in the farm and the fresh air and the animals. Tell us a bit about Farmtown Canada, where it began, where the thought process came from, the brainchild for it, and its evolution path. It's gone through a number of changes over the past number of years, but initially you started off dealing with teens and young kids through equine therapy with horses.
Farmtown actually started as a collection of ideas from a bunch of folks in community, everywhere from schools to community agencies to churches, parents, police officers, and we started out running camps and programs because we just saw how well kids could be if we got them unplugged from a device, out to a farm, running around, integrating with nature, and just learning to be a kid again. That's really where this all started. And so we were just crazy enough to believe that this was a great idea. We started out, we had no idea the need that we were going to uncover. We started busing kids out for programs. We initially were a YMCA feature camp out of London and St. Thomas. We were at one of their premier camps that it was always full, had a waiting list. And during those times, we also mentored a lot of young people, saw so much potential in the teens and young adults that just needed to learn to walk alongside of kids and families regardless of where they came from, socio-economically, culturally, religiously, whatever the demographic was in southwestern Ontario that we could serve. So we did the best we could with what we had. We were all in and we did some really incredible work. Probably for the first 5 years, it was difficult. There were kids all the time everywhere. But what we saw happening was we'd have conversations with parents or care providers or even the schools and say, you know, little Sally was out for the summer and they had the best summer of their life, but they need more. And so we started having conversations and thinking about things. I like to think that we're kind of organic, that we're never stagnant at a farm, just like a farm goes through seasons. Mm-hmm. And so we realized our season was shifting and we needed to really think about how we could better serve our community. There were lots of really great camps out there and we love and support them. There weren't a lot of places for kids to go after camp. And so that ability to help kids be well, to support families. And specifically, we started seeing a need more and more with girls. We started to see conversations in social media like anxiety and cutting and suicidal tendencies. And we're talking about very young girls. So we started to take a look at that and think, how can we provide gap services? So we studied, worked with a lot of other agencies. We have a lot of people to be grateful to and for being in our lives, that we had the conversations and started to look around and said, what's missing? What is not happening for these young people in community? And watching media and seeing trends and talking to police officers and probation and parole that had kids as young as 12 and 13 that had charges that needed somewhere to learn how to be well and not walk those kind of journeys. More and more, it was girls. A lot of places were trying to address all these needs. We'd get phone calls from schools, teaching staff. They're trying to teach academics and they're being forced to do social work. It got really difficult. We started to just keep our eye to the ground and we started educating ourselves to be better at our craft, which was using animals. So in 2007, when we started, we had no idea where we were going to land. The very thing that we had right in our lap, which were animals, you know, it's creation, it's a farm, It's history. It's all of those good things. It's simplicity. It's wellness. It's grounding. These are things that very early on we learned about. We saw results in the lives of these young girls. We had families down the driveway crying at results that they could only have dreamed about. And so we said, okay, we're on to something. What do we need to do to get ahead of the curve, to educate ourselves better? We picked ourselves up and we decided that our staff and anybody that volunteered, they needed to make sure that they were police checked properly, and the protocol about working with at-risk girls was met and they were trained, and we started to align ourselves with other agencies to understand what was working for them but what they weren't able to provide. So we did our equine therapy training and we certified our staff and ourselves at a bunch of different organizations because we wanted to have as many tools in the toolbox. So sometimes it's good to cross-train. Cross-training in therapy is really important. And so we started to train with this, and I had the opportunity to work with an incredible man and just have a visit with Jim Marland from Camp Praxis out in Calgary, who is part of the Wounded Warriors program. And I had an epiphany moment that there were girls that are involved in human trafficking here, not just abroad, but right here, that were not able to detox from the PTSD and trauma that their life had presented them. Having history with children's services and police services in the schools, we started to try to figure out, what does this look like? What does this look like to a family who's had a girl that's been trafficked? What does trafficking look like locally in our community? What do recruiters do? What happens to girls? What are the processes? What are the needs? How can we help them to be well? And really, one of the most difficult things for us was to say yes to this. Because at the time, we didn't know how huge this problem was in southwestern Ontario. Since we started this journey, we've come to realize, we made the shift 3 years ago to say things like, eyes on our girls. She is not for sale and not on my watch. That no matter what other people think or believe, we know the statistics from the police. We know the statistics from victim services. And we know from personally engaging with girls and their stories that these things are in small, sleepy towns. Because we're better for a recruiter that would like to enter a girl into the $7 billion Canadian industry to make them money, and they're professionals. We're better to look for a girl than a small, sleepy town that nobody would be watching for him. We have worked really hard to educate ourselves. We've worked really hard with the horse therapy piece. We understand what it takes to do trauma-informed work specific to anti-human trafficking, not just trauma-informed work. It's not enough because what these girls need is different. They need the trauma-informed work, but it needs to go to a next level and understand personally what these girls need. We've been on this journey. We've started to evolve. We figured out our path 3 years ago. Our board of directors grew and understood. We have board of directors that were previous members of parliament. We have board of directors that work in community health. We have board of directors that are involved in police departments. And all of them bring value to the table to help us to understand that this does happen in our community. And we have to do something about it. The thing that happened to us on this journey is we realized that the government was putting out a ton of money into this area, but they weren't really directing any of the money at 18 and unders. And the statistics from the OPP for 2016 tell us that along the 401 corridor that we're engaged in, along London area, 66% of all engagements are with 18s and under, with the median age being 13. But there's no money there. There's no resources there because it's a very scary area to get involved in. It is so layered. Are they youth? Are they teens? Are they adults? Who's allowed to help? Who's not allowed to help? The lines are so blurry, and in the meanwhile, the girls get picked up in a hotel. The police get involved. They try to work through victim services, line them up with Children's Aid, and get them well. And it's 18 months to 3 years till they can even become a witness in court. And in the meantime, where do these girls go to be well? There was nowhere. And so when we found that vacuum, we said we needed to be a voice. We need to be a voice first for the girls to say, if we can get you here, you can come here. So we have girls that are sent from all over southwestern Ontario. They might be in a group home or a closed custody facility. They might be serving a juvenile sentence. And if they disclose that they're being trafficked, they have the ability to come here. There is a means to get them here and do 4-hour sessions or whatever. We will go and visit them where they are. And so kind of writing the script as we go on this, because there is no protocol for this. Nobody's looked at how big this problem is with under 18. And so we're kind of throwing as much as we can as we go along and learning along with all the other agencies and the police force and the anti-human trafficking specialist at the OPP office and in London and our local police college. We're cooperating with them. Our local police college is now writing curriculum to have better officer information when they're training new recruits about how to manage somebody that they find in a traffic situation. Not just to be a good witness for a conviction, but how the humane part of that is to get them care and services as well. There's a whole bunch of stuff coming together. And Farmtown is right kind of at the cusp of this, making this our complete focus because there was nobody else serving in this area. There's lots of amazing agencies. Please don't hear what I'm not saying. London Abuse Women's Centre, Victim Services, lots of other organizations, Salvation Army's program for homelessness and anti-human trafficking. They are wonderful. But their specialization is handling 19 and older because we're not really allowed to put the 19 and ups with the 18 and unders. You can't do that and look after these girls. So we're driving in our lane. We figured out a big need in our community and we're just game on. Whatever we need to do to speak up for these girls and have a voice for them, to demand services from our MPs and our MPPs who are listening to us and saying, where's all that money going? Well, we don't need it to go to administration. The girls need it in their hands for their care and wellness. We don't need to administrate more programs. We don't need to create more things. We don't need agencies that are already doing work to just put a label on somebody to say they're an anti-human trafficking worker unless they're specifically trained for that. Mm-hmm. It should not be money just to agencies. It needs to be money that goes to boots on the ground for what these girls need to get out now. Because if we can do the prevention piece, when there's a 12-year-old who's been a victim of violence in their home, who has been sexually violated, who all she has seen is violent acts, who's been exposed to pornography at a young age, who then runs into somebody who has the potential to recruit her or involve her in something, she's done. We lose her. But if when that girl is young and she's 12 and we see all the markers that we know that would make her a good recruit for trafficking, if we can work with police and agencies and communities to say when they need a divergent program because they sold something, can we not also add child-friendly information about how not to be trafficked while they're here for divergent? Yeah, we do. Can we not also add some training in schools to say, you know, this is what sexting's doing. And if somebody you know shows these signs, go talk to somebody in guidance or phone victim services or call Crime Stoppers. Mm-hmm. So we just believe that our community needs to take responsibility to keep these girls well. People ask us questions all the time. Well, how many girls? How many? You know what my answer is? Is one enough? Mm-hmm. Is saving the life of one girl who could have recruited 150 others in 30 days. Going town to town to town to town. And everybody and their uncle wants to jump on this bandwagon of anti-human trafficking, and I am so grateful. But let's not recreate things that are already working well. Let's just resource and support what's out there. Can we not think we've got to reinvent the wheel? We know what makes girls that are 18 and under well, that have this happening in their life. You can't just jump into this work and be involved in it unless you're informed. Mm-hmm. You have to know better than to call him a pimp. You have to know to say it's escorting, not being trafficked. You have to know the language or you're not going to connect. And I'm telling you, it's not about getting these girls and saying they got to go to school and they need to find a home and they need to have life skills. Yeah, they do. But if that is where we start the work with trafficked girls, we're trying to nail Jell-O to a tree and it doesn't work. And they go off the radar, and the next person that's going to try to help them, they're not going to trust. Mm-hmm. So we wreck them. We don't need to do that. They're little girls inside, and they need help, and they need very specific, informed help. And horses offer them that. Horses are safe. When a girl steps onto this property, that horse can hear her heartbeat 750 yards away and knows what that beating is doing and what it means. And a horse's whole job is to create safety in community. That's why horses are different than dogs for therapy. Dogs are great, but horses are meant to do this work. They create safety and security to allow girls to be well for a moment. And then we just make those moments bigger and bigger. And then they take that moment into the place where maybe they can go to school now. Or maybe not. Who cares? It's not a measuring stick.
Do you think the trafficking issue, Kelly, is larger, and is it larger from the 19 and down as opposed to the 19 and over?
Oh my goodness, is it ever? Well, I'd say from 35 and down, yes. But specifically 19 and down because they are so connected to social media. And when I go and speak in different places and try to inform people and bring awareness, and then I don't just bring awareness, I need to bring care. But when I go and speak, what I say is, how many of you in the room have a cell phone on you? Hold it up. Great. You have the potential to be trafficked. Every single person that holds that phone up. You know, there's things on Snapchat that it snap maps, and a recruiter's smart enough, they'll watch a girl for a year or two. She won't even know. Maybe it's a fake name. They can map everywhere she's going. Everybody she sees, what her school is called, what her church name is, what community, where she buys her donuts, if she goes to Ardene's, if she goes to David's Teas, how many times does she go to the mall? Is she in the food court? It actually gives them a visual of her. And that's why it's so dangerous. But I also want to speak to this as well about this under 19, because you know the jello to a tree thing is kind of funny. I think some days that I'm the idiot because I joined this club once upon a time where I used to say, give all the information to your teens and help them to stay safe on their media. Who am I kidding? I also kind of preach the message that kids, their front and back of their lobe is not connected till about 24. So their ability to reason, especially around safety, is out the window. That's how come so many of them do risky things, risky behavior with drugs and their lives and driving. We know this. So aren't we the idiots expecting them to keep themselves safe on social media? What is going on? The monkeys are running the circus. So I just say to people, I'm sorry, I can't tell a girl, keep yourself safe. That's an adult's job. We need to do a better job with that. And I don't care if it's unpopular. You can talk to people that I know that are multimillionaires out west that have been in the music industry that said, not my daughter, who lost her for 2 years to this. Once they're gone, you don't get the do-over. You get to bring her home and heal her, but the damage is done. And so I tell parents and I talk to people and say, just don't tell me that it's too hard because your kid's going to be mad at you. Go talk to a parent whose child's been trafficked, and please don't tell me it's never going to happen in your town. Because I can tell you story after story where recruiters come through and they've been watching kids for a year or two and they've befriended them and they're nice and they're decent and they look handsome and nice and they come as boyfriends. They don't come as grimy, sleazy guys that are pimps like you see in movies. That is not the deal. They are businessmen. And yeah, what they do is grimy and sleazy and yucky. But do you think if they're recruiting that they're going to dress like that and rock up to a girl and have any success? No. They're going to drive into a small town and they're going to say, hey, I'm here with my grandpa because an older man's driving. And it's a young, handsome guy. And they're going to say, my grandson's going to college in the fall. And this is a real story. My grandson's going to college in the fall, and we're just here on the weekend. The town's kind of closed after 6:30, but we were just looking for a local church to go to. Wanted to know what restaurants and where he could grocery shop. Would you mind showing us around? Now that story ended well because the girl didn't get in the van. But thank God she didn't, because we'd probably never hear from her. And she might be too embarrassed to ever tell her parents that she was dumb enough to get in the van. Who wants to confess that? So all the things that recruiters use, all the things that happen to our girls, they create incredible PTSD-induced trauma. They can be forcibly confined. The acts alone that they're forced to conform to and perform, we can't even talk about sometimes. But the neatest thing about the horses being here is that when they create that safe environment, girls are able to disclose very quickly. They're able to ground and just feel a connection to wellness, not worry about anything else in the world. You know, maybe we're going to worry about what's for supper, or maybe we're going to worry about whether this horse is going to have an accident and there's going to be manure we're going to step in. Maybe we're going to worry about whether we're going to get to braid their hair, or maybe we're going to worry about, I don't know. That's about as big as the worries get. We live in the moment. And it's really funny how the whole world, Time magazine, put a whole piece out on mindfulness. wow, this is what the horses do. So the world's kind of waking up to what we all need. The girls here get to experience that. Whether they're here for a 45-minute session, 4 hours, whether it's in group, individual, or their stay is more permanent. It totally depends on what they need. But the biggest piece that we're finding going forward is that somebody has to be a voice to speak up, because I find they don't vote, they don't have power, they don't vote, and they don't have money. So the laws about how to treat them and what needs to happen will not change unless there's an adult voice that has some power. So we're actually finding our voice and working collectively, starting task force and saying, okay, if 66% of all the girls engaged are under this age, why aren't the resources for that age group being funded? We're going to ask those questions. And not only that, what is it that needs to be funded that's effective and working for them? And the funniest thing is, we ask the girls. And those are the answers that we need to take back to our MP, to our MPP, to our police forces, to victim services. What do the girls say has helped them once they were outed and they wanted to stay out? What helped? You know the number one thing they say? Don't make promises. Don't promise me anything. We hear all the time, pimps and recruiters and people that are working them and madams, they always say they're going to take you shopping, and they never take you shopping. So we never tell the girls we're taking them shopping till they're in the car. We never tell them we can keep them safe forever, because I don't know if I can do that. But I can keep them safe right now. Right now, for the next 45 minutes, we're going to be safe. And the horses are going to help us with that.
What about the old saying that it takes a community to raise a child? Is there something that we can do within the community to be a watchful eye, be a better person, be a better parent, be a better friend, as part of the community to keep these girls safe?
That's exactly where we're going with this. That's a great question. We have started a campaign called Eyes on Our Girls. There are some indicators that you can look for in relationships, in your mall, in your food court, at your school, that if you are aware, if you're anti-trafficking aware, you will know that if you run into a girl in a retail store that never has ID, and she always comes in and somebody else is speaking for her and never lets her talk, maybe you need to ask some questions, or just say to her, are you safe? And watch her reaction. If you have any inkling that she's not, call mall security, call victim services. You might find a girl that has multiple identification, and it might not be because she's trafficked, it might be for other reasons, but that can happen. She might have bruising and unexplained marks, and they're not from abuse within her family circle or relationships. She might be missing for a couple weekends out of a month, but home the other weekends. You know, there's a big list. And if you contact victim services in your community, whether it's London or Elgin or Oxford, they have that information, and we actually work with them. We will come and do the presentation. So if you're listening and you're at a school or a business, or you're involved in a community agency or a Rotary or a Lions Club or anything, any church group, and you want some education, we will come in with a presentation and help you be Eyes on Our Girls aware, and we'll tell you who you should call, when not to call, and what to look for. Because the more of us that know about this, the more of us can keep our girls safe and say she's not for sale.
Kelly, what is the best way to reach out to you and your services?
I think the best way is to make the phone call and provide us with email. Because we are busy bees. Sometimes we're in the barn, sometimes we're in the community, sometimes we're at the hospital, sometimes we're in a courthouse. We do whatever it takes to support the girls. So if you call 519-773-2292 and leave us your confidential voicemail with contact details, we will get back to you. If you want to email us, info at farmtowncanada.ca, lets us answer you whether it's day or night.
One other question I've got, is there a specific way a parent would know that their daughter is involved in something they shouldn't be?
Well, the first thing is keep your conversations open with your kids, because if you have good dialogue with them, you're going to hear it in conversation. They're going to give you little indicators. They're going to ask you a question. Maybe they'll say, hey, I have a friend that is. What do you think? And if you just keep listening without preaching at your kids, you're going to hear things or see things. Snoop around. Anybody that you've got in your household that has an electronic device, they might fight you and say it's theirs. But you know what? If they're allowing you to be their safe person, somebody needs to have the password to that. There are recruiters out there that load apps that look like calculators on our children's cell phones that are actually snap sites to send sexual pornographic material back and forth. So there's all these new apps that look to a parent like they're safe. And I don't know how we prevent all of that. But if you have a concern about it, you need to have a dialogue. And then just start watching. Get your eyes on your own kids. Get your eyes on other people's kids. Get other people to put their eyes on your kids. You said it, the community to raise a child. I think of a lot of people I know that were raised in the East Coast. And they said you couldn't move or do anything out of that community that somebody wouldn't come out of their house and say something to you. But with us all involved in media, we're living in silos and nobody's watching the kids. We need to get our eyes on and have the dialogues and not be afraid. I have a very good friend that speaks against women's abuse who just happened to find her daughter's media stuff to find out there was somebody creepy trying to recruit her daughter and engage in conversation. So even an informed person can be fooled. So you don't need to beat yourself up over this. If you do find that there's stuff going on, you need to get help and not wait. And if it's not us, there's apples, oranges, and peaches because everybody has different taste. So if you think you can support us, great. If we can help you, great. But if not, find support somewhere else. And I'm going to put this shameless plug in because we have turned into a society that just wants to do things personally all the time in order to invest. But I'm going to tell you that I would not go into the hospital and want to be the person plugging in the machines and doing the trauma unit work that they do in a hospital unit. I could be a volunteer or a candy striper. I could clean bedpans and I can go sweep and I can go read to patients in the hospital. But I couldn't do the trauma work in the trauma unit. Trafficking work is trauma unit work. So everybody wants to come here, hang out with the girls, do this and that, but they're not informed and they're not trained yet. And until they are, people need to write checks. Because when a girl needs to take 30 showers or leave the lights on all night or needs extra time and extra rides to the hospital to do a rape kit or have some special medication to fight sexually transmitted disease without feeling stigma, I need to drive her those extra time. So we need people to support this work with their money. And I know that's a bad word, but you know what? It takes a lot to do what we do. The damage that has been done is layered, and we can either leave it there and look at cleaning it up later through addiction services or jail or whatever else. We can do the prevention now while they're really young and get them out and work with them and set them on their path and let them do their journey, their way, to be mindful, grounded, and in their moments and be well. Or we can clean it up later with postvention that our government will never have the money for. So we need your help. We need people to write checks. We do need volunteers, but we need money. We need to keep the heat and hydro on for girls. We need to keep the horses well that help these girls heal. Or you don't want to know what our insurance looks like and how much it costs to drive girls back and forth. But in order to keep them well, we need to keep the animals well that help the girls heal. We need to stay well ourselves. We need to keep the staff trained and the volunteers trained and just keep the sign on at Farmtown. Because I believe what we're doing is we're cutting a path in a very dark place with a light shining that's going to be usable for people all across Canada to help under 18s. We're not just doing this for us. Anybody wants to borrow our stuff or find out how to do work in their community, come on and work with us for a while and then go do something in your community.
Kelly, thank you so much for not only enlightening myself, but for bringing awareness on this very topic to our audience and to our community. I thank you very much for sharing all that you have today.
Thank you so much for asking good questions and just letting me let it rip. My heart is full with all of the good things that are happening to girls here now. And I just want to say thank you for people that have journeyed with us for 10 years and allowed us to evolve to continue to meet needs that are really important. So thank you to all our contributors, our community partners, everyone that served on a board, everybody that's shoveled manure, everybody that's done anything and kept us in their thoughts and prayers and best wishes. And just the more the merrier.
So if you would like to join the Courage for Freedom family, visit us at courageforfreedom.org or email us office@courageforfreedom.org.
And I just wanted to add my greeting at the end because people will know it's us. E-I-E-I-O.
It's certainly been a pleasure to have you part of the show today. Until we chat again, live with a smile, share your laughter, and remember, it's all about attitude. I'm Doug MacAllister. Have yourself a great day.